Welcome, everyone. We're going to have Dan turn on his mic so he can introduce himself as well and today's webinar.
Hello, everyone. I am Dan. Welcome to today's webinar entitled CK-12, a solution for flexible learning. My colleague Katie and I will be guiding tonight's conversation about how CK-12 can be a solution for any educational situation, whether that's in-person learning, virtual classrooms, homeschooling, or any blended model of teaching and learning.
So we're glad to have you with us today for this interactive session, and we want you to leave with practical strategies for implementing CK-12 in any educational context. So whether that's your core curriculum or as a resource to supplement your current instruction, or even just extra support as you go. Now, CK-12 is a robust, intelligent platform, and our goal in this session is to give you an introduction to the CK-12 Foundation and CK-12.org, and to show you the power of our FlexBook 2.0 platform, including the teacher assistant and student tutor. Plus all of the interactivity and related content that brings learning to life. When I go live, I'll show you a variety of ways to access, share, and assign content to students, as well as how you can monitor their progress. And we'll discuss strategies for implementation, whether you're doing in-person or online instruction. Lastly, we'll make sure you leave knowing where to find additional help and support should you need it when exploring CK-12.
So before we get started today, let's just make sure everyone's comfortable using the two Zoom windows. So you should see two different options on your Zoom screen. One is for Q&A and one is for chatting. So during today's presentation, whenever you have a question you'd like the CK-12 team to answer, please post it in the Q&A window. That's the window that we'll be monitoring throughout the presentation. The chat window is a place for community conversation. We'd love for you all to introduce yourselves. So if you're an educator, please feel free to share where you live and the subject you teach. Just make sure in the chat window that you're sending any general posts to everyone, all panelists and attendees, and not just to the CK-12 or the panelists. This is scheduled to be about 45 minutes or so. We'll break a few times to answer questions live, and then we'll also stay on at the end of the webinar to address any unanswered questions that any of you might have. Also, we are recording this webinar, and it'll be available at ck12.org/webinars in the archive section if you want to revisit anything you learned today or just share it with a friend or colleague. So for many of you, this webinar might be your first introduction to CK-12, but we've actually been the premier flexible learning solution since 2007, and serving over 200 million users from around the world. We firmly believe that every student has unique personalized learning journey, and that we offer multiple pathways for students to learn in their own way. We are a nonprofit organization, and all of our resources, absolutely everything that you see on CK-12 is free. You'll never see any advertising on our site, and you won't hit a paywall. CK-12 is proud to provide free access for teachers and learners, giving you the tools and resources that you need to help students seamlessly transition between in-person or remote classes and homework or independent learning.
So what specifically are we offering you? CK-12 provides a number of different types of resources, all of which can be seen here in our Explore menu. These range from our core FlexBooks to adaptive practice, to our simulations and Plix interactives, to FLEXI, our student tutor and teacher assistant, and even to support and information for those looking to use and implement CK-12. For those that ask about our platform, and in particular our FlexBooks, we offer the highest quality content that's accessible across every platform and device, from Chromebooks to smartphones to tablets to desktop computers. Customized FlexBooks can even be downloaded as PDFs, as well if you need a static copy or offline access. Though we do always say that the best experience is online with our latest offerings and our adaptive practice.
When you arrive at ck12.org, you may notice that the bulk of our resources fall within the branches of math and science. We offer comprehensive coverage for middle and high school math and science with our newest interactive FlexBooks, attached adaptive practice, and related content such as videos, interactives, and real-world applications. We also do have some math adaptive practice at the elementary level, and we offer parent and teacher elementary math flexlets and elementary science readers. We also have some college FlexBooks and some content that goes beyond the STEM subject area as well. Finally, I encourage you all to check out our middle and high school Flexlets that were developed to help students fill previous learning gaps and prepare for upcoming new content by studying the key concepts in a variety of math and science subjects. All of these resources on CK-12 can be used either as is, or you have the ability to customize the content to meet the needs of your students in your community.
Now, we actually have an entire section of our site that is dedicated to sharing the content our users customize and create. Like Dan just said, while CK-12 only offers a few FlexBooks in the area of, for example, language arts, we do have schools and districts who have created books on our site that are ready to be used by you. Don't be afraid to use the search bar for any subject or topic and click over to the Community Contributed tab to see what we offer. The schools page is another great place to see content created in a region near you. Now, this is the magic of CK-12. You can use the power of the CK-12 platform to customize, create, and curate your own content. When schools started to shut down in 2020 due to COVID, the Merced County Office of Education in California needed a way to organize and deliver content to the 22 districts that it serves, and they needed to do it quickly. So within a matter of weeks, they built their own FlexBooks on CK-12 using their teacher-created materials as well as other open educational resources. They embedded videos from their own YouTube channel and even attached a customized quiz to each of their lessons. Then the 22 districts had access to quality content that they could use for online or in-person instruction with their students. And they even published it and shared it with others so that you too can access that content. Merced County is a great example of what is possible if you get the right people around the table who are willing to reimagine what good virtual education looks like, or good in-class education as well.
As you're finding resources you like on CK-12, you can add them to your library, or you can copy and paste the unique URL and share the resources with others. If you want to assign the work to students and receive feedback on how they did, you can create a CK-12 class, or you can use an integrated learning management system. As a former educator myself, I get really excited about that because CK-12 works seamlessly with the classes you've already created in Google Classroom, Canvas, and Schoology, making it really easy for you to assign work and then view insights and reports without needing to duplicate classes on CK-12. We'll put some quick reference links for these learning management systems in the chat, and we encourage you to check out our video offerings that cover these different integrations. Also, it's important to note that you can use Clever and ClassLink to log in.
Now, throughout CK-12's history, we've attempted to support teachers so that they can focus on helping students learn. With each development, we've tried to assist you with tools to save time and improve learning. With the advent of our FlexBook 2.0 platform, we've been able to go beyond our customization tools and basic reports to include our newest insights and pop-up notifications. So let's take a few minutes to talk about how this tool can empower your teaching. So first of all, you can see patterns in your student skill level. It talks about engagement and skill level. That mapping is available for your whole class. So it shows you how that engagement is actually affecting student skill levels, and then which students might need help before moving on to the next lesson. We also pinpoint where your students are struggling. We can show you where there's learning gaps or misconceptions by giving you personalized insights on where you can intervene effectively. And then in addition to those insights, we provide actionable recommendations to help improve your students' learning outcomes, including maybe specific problem areas that would help close any learning gaps, suggestions for future ideas on topics to cover, or even specific paragraphs or questions to go back and review. Now, we also try to save you time by doing a number of different things. One, we update a gradebook directly in your LMS if you're using one of our integrated learning management systems. That happens as students submit their work so that you can then focus on teaching, and then you can assign those graded assignments from CK-12 classes, Google Classroom, Canvas, or Schoology, and get those reports right within that platform. The teacher assistant also provides heat maps that show your class at a glance and helps you find students who need direct intervention, whether that's that they're not completing their work or their skill level is low and they might need to go back and review a particular topic. And we actually, this past year, added the option to toggle between the scores and their skill level for practice so that you can see that progress towards mastery on those top concepts. And then the insights also tell you maybe paragraphs that you want to go back if, let's say, you wrote your own content or when that comes out down the road, or content in CK-12 if you're customizing our content and you're saying a bunch of my kids could maybe I explain it differently than this, so maybe I'll go back and tweak that. And then you can create a personalized FlexBook for your class that's tailor-made to meet your students' needs. And with FLEXI, you get notifications on student progress and insights. Plus, you have the ability to nudge students who need to complete their work. Let's say they're behind on turning an assignment, or you want to remind them to go ahead and get that goal of 10 correct within practice. You can go ahead and nudge them, and they'll get a notification with FLEXI or an email as they go. Additionally, FLEXI is there to help you with using the CK-12 platform. So you'll see FLEXI in our Science and Math FlexBook 2.0 lessons, and you can ask FLEXI how to customize a FlexBook, find insights, see progress, and much more. And if you're not inside a FlexBook, just click on the FLEXI link in the Explore menu or go to ck12.org/FLEXI to access this support.
At CK-12, our mission has always been about learning and access, and our student tutor is a way to equalize education. Many students from around the world come to CK-12 looking for high-quality content that they can study on their own. That's why we created FLEXI, our tutor who can play an important role in the learning journey of the student. The first student tutor interaction for many students will be in any of our FlexBook 2.0 offerings, where they will meet FLEXI on the sideline. FLEXI assists students with notifications such as reminders about assignments, suggestions to refresh their skills and boost their memory with practice on older concepts, and more. Plus, in our science and math books and coming for our math FlexBooks, students can ask FLEXI questions such as, why isn't Pluto a planet anymore? When answering questions, FLEXI addresses all sorts of requests from students. Some of these help a student get a quicker answer when they need it. Others clarify topics or problems they're having. And our favorites encourage students simply to explore and satisfy their curiosity. FLEXI also guides students to dig deeper and learn more about suggesting additional questions they ask FLEXI to their previous one. You can see a great example here of a student asking about photosynthesis and then following it up with suggested questions on the purpose of photosynthesis and then light absorption. And even going beyond the Q&A and notifications for students, our student tutor helps with learning in a number of ways by providing hints and adjusting the difficulty of questions in adaptive practice, checking for understanding and giving feedback on various practice and inline questions, and then showing students how they did it on an assignment. So put together, the tutor helps students self-reflect and answer questions like, how am I doing? How can I improve? Or like, what am I missing? To help students refresh their understanding and review for a quiz or test, last year we released our student review offerings for our science FlexBooks. This pulls summaries out of the toolbar and consolidates the vocabulary from across the lesson and gives students a couple of questions with matching flex cards, which are like interactive flashcards, to help them study key ideas. We're working on rolling out the student review for math as well, so keep an eye out for that in the future. And here's a little pro tip from us here at CK-12. If you want to see this view, you can simply log out of your teacher account and see the lessons just like a student would. Beyond the review section, the same header bar for students has two other key pieces. One, they quickly see what question other students are asking FLEXI. So sometimes understanding the thinking of other students can be a valuable learning experience. So we wanted to offer this chance for students to see questions that their peers might be asking about a particular concept. Students can find these questions at the bottom of each lesson as well. We've also pulled the related content out of the main toolbar for easy access by students that might want to check out a video, an interactive, a study guide, or other resources as they review or learn a topic.
So now that you understand a little more about who CK-12 is and what we offer, I'm going to go live to the site and show you a demo of our FlexBook 2.0 platform to show you how we bring content to life and cover how you can share this with your students and see their progress through assignments. Looks like we got a couple questions in there as we started, and they have been answered. So go ahead as I'm demoing live, as you have questions that come up, go ahead and put those in the Q&A window and our team will answer them, or we'll bring some of those and I'll show you live at the end of this part of the webinar. So let me go ahead and swap my screen, not to that, but to the actual live set. So you all should be able to see our CK-12 platform. If you go to ck12.org and you're not logged in, you're probably seeing the student side of it that looks like this. So you can always swap over to the teacher version to see that. And you have some options to start. So let's say you want to find a FlexBook. You can do that under the direct links that are here on the what do you want to teach today. You can do that under our subjects, where I can go in and let's say pick a Math 8 book and go ahead and open that book up, and you'll see the book itself with our chapters and our lessons. I can go ahead and go back to that subjects again and pick a different one, let's say physical science. And I can open up a book here. So go ahead and access your books and we'll go through, and I'll drop into one of these books again in a minute, but let's talk a little bit broader about what things look like. So if I click on the Explore menu, again, I can see those different pieces, FLEXI, our FlexBooks, which I can browse, some of our older FlexBooks that haven't been migrated to 2.0 yet, and our different resources. So if I wanted to drop straight into any of our interactives, this is a great way to get there. Or if I just want students to have extra practice, I can go straight to our adaptive practice. So definitely check out the subjects menu and the Explore menu to get quick access to particular FlexBooks or particular types of resources on CK-12. And then I can also use my search bar. So let's say I want to search for something like light and color. Now I can do that in this FlexBook, or I can do it, you see that it shows up in both the physics and physical science books, or I can go ahead and I can click over into all of CK-12. Let's say I'm not in a book yet and I want to just kind of explore that concept. So I'll see different options here. I'll see books and resources. I can filter by grade or by type of resource as I go through. Kind of all sorts of options as you're looking through from here. And then you'll see that community contributed tab if I wanted to go wander into that world. Now, there are over 300,000 variations of FlexBooks on our site, and a chunk of them are published so that you can see them in the community contributed section. You just want to make sure that you are vetting these a little more closely than CK-12 content. We maintain the quality of everything that we tag as CK-12 that lives in that world. We do not double check that anyone who customized content explained that 2 + 2 is 4. They might have said 5. Who knows what they're doing with their students? So just double check that if you're using content outside of this CK-12 world and you're going into community contributed, that you make sure to vet that content to make sure it matches what you are looking to do. And just kind of think about here, this is your teacher account. For those that are new to it, you can kind of see the same piece here, the subjects and explore. We updated this toolbar recently. If you're looking to jump into content, if you're using CK-12 classes, you can see them here. If you are using Google Classroom, Canvas, or Schoology, you're not going to use the class option. You're going to just live in that world there to streamline things for yourself and your students. And if you customize content, you'll be able to find it in your library. So all sorts of options as you go through from there. So let's go ahead and think about what we might want to teach. So let's pick on subjects, open up a FlexBook, let's say biology. This has some of our newest, coolest interactives that are built directly into things. So if I go ahead and I open this up and I click on, let's say, characteristics of life, you'll see here that our content has images embedded. It has hover over vocabulary that you can see here. You'll see different resources, maybe a pullout. This links to another concept, so I can actually click on that and explore more on water in another lesson that we have on that topic. And then you might see interactive. So this one talks about, okay, if it's a hot temperature, ideal temperature, or cold temperature, what is happening to a tree frog in that case? And so you'll see different types of interactives, maybe some embedded videos as you go through. So that's one thing. You might see these inline interactives. If I go ahead back up here for a second and I click on a different subject, and we were in math for a second. So let me click on one of our middle school math books, open it up. And if I open up a lesson here, you'll see that these are designed differently. So each book is designed based on the topic. It's designed with a level of interactivity based on when we have most recently made interactives and what's available for that book at that time. But these ones you'll see have built-in interactive options right here. I can go ahead and drag the numbers into the parts of the circle and talk about integers, rational numbers, all of those fun things as I go through. And then students can answer questions. And if they go ahead and they answer this, we're going to give them immediate feedback here. It's going to say, nope, this doesn't work out. Go ahead and check that again so that they get feedback and support as they are learning. So you'll see those different types of resources depending on the type of book, and you'll figure out what that looks like. So let's go ahead back to that light and color one, because I know this one has a couple different things in it that might be useful for you to see. And I didn't want to do that inside this book. I wanted to do it inside our physical science book. There we go. And I can drop into that other book. And you'll see here that this one's a little different. This one doesn't have a little quick interactive. It has a PLEX that launches from here. So I'll show you what our PLEX look like. These are what I consider quick interactive options that have a couple components. So one, they have the interactive component that happens right here. They have learn more. So if students want to learn a little more about the particular topic, it's going to show up and show that resource and that learning opportunity. And then it has challenge questions that go with these. And if students kind of just guess on these, they're going to actually be able to see what's happening and learn as they go through. This isn't an assessment piece, it's a learning opportunity. And so as they go through, these questions are going to advance to higher level thinking. They're going to advance in type of questions. So the last question in any of these is actually an open discussion question. So let me see if I can jump to there. And you'll see here we have the last two in this case, discuss your answer with others. So a lot of teachers will use our PLEX interactives as a warm-up or as a homework assignment and say, when we come into class tomorrow, we're going to start with this discussion and go from there. So different pieces as you go through. That's a PLEX interactive. And now let me show you what a simulation looks like, because this one actually happens to have both, and you'll see kind of different pieces embedded. If I launch a simulation, the simulations have different components. They always start with an opening question. They're more systems-based or toggle pieces or a lot of moving parts in some cases, or for our chemistry ones, they dig really deeply into kind of the molecular level. And so you can go through and you can check out this video. You can expand some pieces. You can actually go into our sandbox environment and students can play around with different pieces to see what's happening. There's a worksheet available if you want to give this to your students to kind of follow along and work their way through that. And then for physics, you might see some slider-based questions that they can then go ahead back to that and try to answer. And then for all of our simulations, you see an extension. So we really try to think about how our content applies in the real world, take a concept and apply it, that idea of transfer of learning. And so you'll see these other real world examples that students can go ahead and learn more about. And maybe consider giving your students this simulation and then breaking them into groups, and each group gets to explore one of these resources. So different options as you go through. We're going to drop that back down and we're back in here. And you can see right here that this has highlights right here. So if I highlight content, I can edit a note on this. This I just put with summary info. I can save that. I can see in my toolbar all of the highlights that I have available for this lesson. You'll see them kind of color coded. I've had teachers that do vocab in one color and questions in another color and all sorts of options as they go through. But just know that that resource for learning is available for students, and they can go in and take their own notes and highlights as they go. In addition to the toolbar, we have our notes and highlights. We have an automated summary for our science lessons that's available right now. So you'll see that there. And then you'll see related content. So this has all sorts of other learning opportunities. You'll see the PLEX and the interactive sim in this case are tagged here as well, but there's a couple videos, another PLEX interactive, some real world applications, and even a quick study guide with great resources and references and vocabulary for students to explore. So check out your related content, check out the notes and highlights, resources. If we had, let's say, an answer key or something at this level, then you would see that available there. So different opportunities as you go. In addition to the toolbar, there's three other things I want to show you on this page. So one is this Google Translate option. So you can see here that any user can go in and translate all of our core content. It's not going to translate language in a picture, but it's going to translate the core text around it into whatever language is chosen. And that might be useful for a student who's learning English or for a family that wants to support their student at home. Just know that they're going to want to go ahead back to the English and learn that English content, because the practice is going to be based on the English content that's available in that primary language. We don't know what Google comes up with as like a random synonym for a word, and so our practice is based on English, with the exception of the actual Spanish books that we do offer for some of our courses, and those that have practice attached to the Spanish version have that practice in Spanish. Another thing you're going to see at the bottom is FLEXI. So here's a great option. You'll see tasks. So if we have, in this case, there was just a little pop-up you guys might have seen. I think some of you might have used that to join our webinar today. But it might also say, hey, your students just finished work. You now have new insights. Or maybe you want to nudge these students who didn't finish this work. So your tasks here for teachers are information or the ability to nudge. For students, they might be like, oh, you just got a new assignment. Go ahead and check it out. And then here you can ask FLEXI a number of questions. So you could ask a help question. How do I customize a FlexBook? And FLEXI is there to help you. We got some text, we have a video, we have a resource that jumps to our help center, all sorts of options. You could ask a science question, like why isn't Pluto a planet? Or better yet, what is the stormiest planet in the solar system? And it's going to pull from our content and have students get a snippet of that information to go ahead and learn and read through and figure out what that looks like. So really helping students answer questions and get answers right there. Or they could just ask a curiosity question. Why do we forget stuff? So you'll see text like this. For some other things, let's say I ask about prove the exterior angle theorem. And it's going to pull content from our resources. And in this case, it's pulling from our geometry book. So you'll see this kind of interactive piece that it's pulling from, and it'll actually have that interactivity built directly in. So all sorts of options, both for you, supporting you in the platform, for students who are trying to kind of refresh a concept or ask a question. Those are all available there within FLEXI, right within that FlexBook 2.0 platform. On the other side, we have our practice. So if I click on View Practice, as a teacher, I can download this as a worksheet. I can customize this into a quiz. We're not going to go into customization today, but know that that is an option, and there's plenty of resources to learn about that. And then I could preview that practice. And when I click preview, I get dropped into this lesson just like as if I was a student. And you can see that I've gotten a whole bunch of questions wrong. Actually, I've used this example before. So right now I have 9 questions left that I'm working off of. The goal is usually 10 right there. I can ask for a hint as I go through. I could say, okay, maybe I need another hint. I got this. I'm answering random questions here. I can check it. It's going to give me feedback. For some of our core lessons, you're going to see more and more of that feedback built in. I can even jump in and get a refresher on the content as I go through. And then maybe I'll actually read this lesson. What are the only 3 colors of light that the human eye can distinguish? So let's say we get this here. Nope, magenta next. Notice I only got that twice. It's not going to give me that question on ending until I get it. It's going to help me work my way through. So red, green, and blue. I can go ahead, these 3 colors are primary colors. It's still saying I have a couple questions remaining in this concept that I can work off of. It will help the student. And if I was being successful, the skill level would go from beginning all the way up to mastery. And they can go ahead and use that to get a sense of how they're doing. They can play with the scratch pad, 1 + 2, as they go through, and they can check that out. So you as a teacher can stop. You can see a report for students on anything you've assigned. You can see your own report if you want to explore it. But you can definitely check out the adaptive practice as you go through. So we've talked about the core FlexBook lesson. We've talked about content embedded in here, different resources, practice, FLEXI, asking FLEXI questions, Google Translate, highlighting. Now let's talk about assigning this content. So in the options for this, every single lesson on our platform has a unique URL. So in this case, I can copy this URL at the top and share that with anyone I want to share that with, maybe a colleague. I can even do that at the full book level. I can jump back to the book from here. I can open up any other lesson. I can share that direct link. I can navigate via the toolbar. However I want to work my way through, I can go ahead and I can share that. But if all I do is share a link, then I'm not going to have any information about how my students did on that lesson. If I want information on how my students did, I want to use my assignment functionality. So I can go ahead and I can click assign. And then from CK-12, I can assign directly to Google Classroom or to CK-12. For Canvas and Schoology or the new Google Classroom add-on, I would do that assignment directly from within that platform. But if I go ahead and I pick this, I can assign this to a, let's say, fall 2021 class. I'm going to pick a due date of next Friday. I'm going to say this is a 2.0 lesson, a matter, mass, and volume. And I'm going to say read and do the practice. Check out the related content for more resources. And I can go ahead and I can sign that. And it's at that point in time that my students will see that assignment in their class, that they will access it from there. They can turn it in from there. And then once that's done and they've submitted work, I can actually see their progress. And I can see that within a CK-12 class or Google Classroom or Canvas or Schoology, anything where I have the ability to actually assign using one of our assignment options. And if I do that, I can open up a report. And this report is available directly from those other platforms or from within a CK-12 class. And you'll see here, we're getting practice scores, real world applications, or interactives, just get a check or no credit. Like there's not really much to grade there, but quizzes get clean grading. You can see here that this student actually tried this a few times. I allowed for multiple attempts on this lesson or this quiz, and I can actually see the questions that they answered. But if I want to say, okay, well, how did they did on their first try? I can jump back and see what questions they got wrong in the first round. I can see my practice scores here, both that skill level developing, as well as the level of questions, the first and second try. If they happen to have used a hint, I'll see a little icon next to it that shows their hint. And then I can toggle from here if I want to see their skill level. So from here, I can see, okay, this student is proficient, developing, exploring, mastery. So I'm not super worried about Lindsay. She's doing pretty well on the content as well as submitting her work, but I got an 80% of that quiz. So maybe I want to go back and check that piece. So you're going to get these resources here, but you're also going to get, in addition to kind of the core piece, I can open up any of these lessons and I can open up my class and I can see what we called, I mentioned our insights, our class insights as we go through from here. So this is going to open up my insights. If you don't have insights yet, just check out the demo class because that will give you a sense of some resources. But you can see here engagement and then skill level. So Katie spent a decent amount of time, 8 minutes on this lesson, tried out all the interactives, is still kind of in that developing level. So maybe we want to work with her a bit. Ryan, on the other hand, I might say, you only spent 49 seconds on this lesson. The first recommendation I would have is go back and try out that lesson. And then I can nudge my students. I can say, okay, maybe check out these prerequisite concepts that they might be struggling with, or even here's some questions that multiple students got wrong that I could actually check out and start class with and explain as we go. So you get that with that assignment functionality, you get the ability to see reports, that class report piece, as well as these insights and recommendations. So with that, the only thing I wanted to show you as well was that student toolbar, just so you get a sense to kind of check it out. So if I log out for a split second, I'm going to see on my science content, the same lesson that I had here, but then also the ability to kind of quickly review. And students will see that hover over vocab. They can test their knowledge. There might be key questions or images or things like that. And they might even see questions that students have asked FLEXI that will help them think deeper about that particular topic. And then we pulled out that related content to make it really easily accessible for students. So, super quick overview, plenty of ways to access content on CK-12, plenty of options within the FlexBook 2.0 platform to explore and dig deeper, and then that assignment functionality. So with that, I'm going to stop here and see how we're doing on questions. So Dan, how are we doing on questions?
Great. So Bailey is answering quite a bit. Rhonda asked if we know of any biology simulations that may be added soon.
So the full simulation thing, like our physics and chemistry ones, we are not currently working on right now. That takes a significant amount of teamwork and effort and design. We have a very small team. We keep all of our stuff free for our users, so we have to prioritize. What we decided based on the content and what we were doing was to add more of those interactives directly within the book itself. So instead of full simulations for biology, the biology book has those interactives like what I showed you there. So let's say I look at cell biology and I click on parts of a cell. I can go in and I'm still logged out, so I'm still seeing this as a student. And you might see different pieces here. And here's another kind of interactive piece that we're building in where students can play around with it. So we're building the interactives within the bio book as opposed to like the full simulations from there. We had a question about assignments grading. If you assign through Google Classroom or assign to Google Classroom, you actually can go in and edit the point value that it populates with. So CK-12 will send a grade percent. And if you set a score in your LMS that is different than a percentage grade, let's say you say this homework is worth 20 points. If they get 5 out of 10 questions right, they will get 10 points in Google Classroom or any other matching LMS. So that will populate your Google Classroom gradebook based on the scores you've set for those lessons. So go ahead and check that out. I think we had just a question that we can answer there, but I think that kind of does it for the questions right now. Go ahead and feel free to keep doing that. We're going to talk about some strategies, and then we'll do some resources for you, and we'll circle back to questions as we go. So don't hesitate to keep tossing those in there. So I'm going to go ahead back to our keynote and share that, and we're going to move forward from there.
So next, we want to share a few strategies that you can implement in any learning context. We recommend using a FlexBook 2.0 as your primary mode of instruction, because this allows your students to shift from in-class learning or online classes to homework and then back without any issues. We've integrated the best of CK-12 into those 2.0 lessons, and you can get meaningful insights on how students engaged with the lesson and performed on the adaptive practice. So consider starting with or pivoting to an interactive digital book, whether one that you find from CK-12 or just one that has been contributed to the community. You can use it either as is or take the time to customize the scope and sequence of your book and localize the content specifically for your students. FlexBooks can be updated at any time throughout the year if you want to make modifications and changes.
Now, one of the best ways to check student progress is by assigning adaptive practice. And we had someone that asked about students getting multiple tries. They definitely have the chance to kind of go back in and keep working as they go through. It will save their progress. You can reset that if for some reason they've gone through all gazillion math questions in the practice piece. You can go ahead and reset that for them if you want. But by doing that, they can actually save their progress and keep working as they go. And then you, most importantly, can see that progress. And as I was explaining, you can assign that adaptive practice kind of individually or through a FlexBook 2.0 lesson. Individually, go ahead and use the Explore menu or ck12.org/practice. And we really encourage you to let our adaptive practice system do the heavy lifting for you, because they're going to get those recommendations in the moment. If you want to create your own questions, your own assignments, handpick which questions come out of our database, you can go ahead and customize that to set up what we call a quiz on CK-12, and then assign that quiz to your students.
CK-12's annotation tools help students stay engaged as they interact with the learning content. Any highlights or notes that your students may take will appear in their individual accounts under the toolbar. They can then go back and revisit their notes and annotations at any time to help with self-study.
And built into our FlexBooks are pop-up vocabulary and various interactives. I showed you this when we went live. So in addition to those, we have our Q&A options with FLEXI. We really encourage students to use these to check their understanding, clarify key vocabulary, and more. And the display settings, which you can see on the right there, are also found in that toolbar on the right, and they may be helpful for some students. Plus, our core content works well with text readers, so students can use whatever extension works best for them if they struggle with language and they're using us like text-to-speech reader as they go through.
If you have assigned a FlexBook 2.0 lesson through a CK-12 class, Google Classroom, Schoology, or Canvas, you have access to Insights, which is a powerful feature in our toolbar that lets you see the time a student spent on a lesson, a histogram of where they spent that time, the skill level they received on the attached adaptive practice, and an engagement score that gives you an indicator of how much each student interacted with the lesson, such as through watching videos, using interactives, and engaging with highlighting and annotations. Plus, the insights and recommendations for the whole class will give you suggestions such as prerequisite concepts that some students might need to review, a few questions that many students got incorrect that you might want to start a class discussion with, and much, much more. CK-12 offers class level and individual reports, which make it easy for both the teacher and the student to monitor progress. Teachers can use the heat map on the class reports to see at a glance which of their students are completing work or performing well on quizzes and which are struggling. They can also toggle that skill level version that will show them progress towards mastery for adaptive practice concepts. When clicking on an individual student, teachers see the same report the student received when completing the practice. And that has details that include the time spent, number of easy, medium, and hard questions they answered correctly, their skill level, and even a record of the exact number the student selected or typed in.
Now, our science lessons have one additional detail you'll see in Insights, and students will see this in their own reports. This is our paragraph mapping feature, and it highlights relevant paragraphs in the lesson that a student would want to review. You can see that dot on the left next to water that kind of highlights that for them. And this is based on questions they got incorrect on the practice. If they click on the green dot, they'll see a flashcard and the question to help them review. Now, our interactives, both our simulations and FLEXI that I showed you, are great for online and in-person instruction to preview, reinforce, or review concepts. Many teachers choose to begin their class with a FLEXI as a bell ringer activity, and students can work individually or in partners to answer the challenge questions. Our simulations open with a broad question relating to a real-world situation. And if you're in person with students, consider starting class with that simulation projected on the board and discuss student ideas before proceeding with the activity. Students engaging with a simulation at home have access to those challenge questions and extension activities to reinforce their learning.
Our related content, which is found in the toolbar of our newest FlexBook 2.0 offerings, have curated modalities to allow students to learn their own way. This is great because it allows you to easily give students the choice of how they want to learn a concept. These curated modalities include videos, real-world applications, interactives, study guides, and more. Encourage students to check out all of the related content, grab the URL to any particular modality and share it directly, or you can assign individual modalities if you want to report. Remember that all of CK-12's resources have unique URLs that you can use to share with your students and with their families. In your outgoing communication, make sure to link to individual FlexBook sections and even include instructions for how students and guardians can use the Google Translate feature to instantly change the content into their home language.
Now, while using our FlexBooks online will always provide the best experience for students. That way they can access interactives, videos, and adaptive content. Users can still download a PDF of a book they have customized. You can also download adaptive practice and quizzes and those worksheets for simulations if you need offline access. Now I'm going to do a last call for questions. Our colleague Bailey has been doing a great job answering them. We will wrap up with some kind of additional tips for help and support that Dan's going to give you. I'm going to look at any questions that are coming in. And at the end of the presentation, if we have any unanswered questions, we will stay on and answer those at that time. So go ahead and keep your questions coming in.
Thanks, Katie. So I know today's webinar was a really quick whirlwind of a tour of what CK-12 has to offer. But if you're finding yourself wanting to learn more about our platform and resources, or you just like an easy page to share with your colleagues, you can go to ck12.org/overview. There's also brochures there that are available for you to download. And to hear why and how others are using CK-12, please make sure to check out our testimonials page. There you'll see interviews with educators from around the world and comments from both teachers and students. And if you have a question, don't hesitate to use FLEXI. I know we've been talking about FLEXI a lot tonight, but FLEXI can answer many of your questions right within CK-12. And if you need additional assistance or you're exploring CK-12, you can check out ck12.org/help or click on help in the footer for quick references and quick articles and tips for using CK-12. Also, make sure to check out our webinars page, ck12.org/webinars, to see archived recordings of this and many other webinars that we've done. And please, again, feel free to share this with any colleagues who couldn't make it today or colleagues that you were thinking of that could use this as we were going through everything. Plus, keep an eye out for our upcoming webinars as we add more to our schedule. And if you've never visited CK-12's YouTube channel, you'll find a wide range of videos from content tutorials to testimonials to previous webinars. We've got it all there. I'd like to call special attention to the quick overviews playlist that we update as our site evolves. These are just bite-sized videos that are only a couple of minutes in length. They quickly get you the help you need on a variety of CK-12 tasks. You can also easily access the playlist at the bottom of our webinars page. In addition to covering the CK-12 classes, those quick videos include how to use CK-12 with our 3 integrated learning management systems. I know Bailey had sent those out earlier, but we do have landing pages for these integrations, complete with matching videos, help desk article links, and more. You can access them on our tools page and apps page, which can be found in our footer or directly at the matching URLs, ck12.org/g-classroom/canvas and /schoology. These were updated this fall and include options for the newer Google Classroom add-on. So it's the latest information, everything you need. In 2020, we converted our certified educator program to an on-demand self-paced course. So if you were intrigued by what you saw today and you want to dive deeper into all of CK-12's tools and resources, please consider joining our community of educators and becoming certified at absolutely no cost and on your own schedule. You can check this out at ck12.org/certified and click join to register for the program and be placed in a class. We're also about to launch our certified trainers page. So you're kind of getting a sneak peek, very first look here. But for all of you who are looking for additional support for your school or your district, so if you're watching this, you're like, oh my goodness, our school or our district could really use this. You're welcome to reach out to our trainers and schedule time with them. You can visit that page when we launch it. We'll send out some more detailed information very soon. So again, we want to just thank you all for joining us. We don't want to leave without asking you to please check out our social networks. You can find us at CK-12 Foundation or by searching CK-12 Foundation. We're going to stay on for any questions. As Katie mentioned, she has been looking through the Q&As. So she will be answering those. But if you think of something right as soon as you leave, or you think of something tomorrow, you can reach out to us at any time. By emailing support@ck12.org.
Thanks, Dan. So we're just past that 45-minute mark. So if you are all set, you're welcome to step off. We have a couple questions in here that we're going to answer. If you have any other questions, get them in right now, because as soon as that gets cleared, we will close today's window. But again, as Dan said, you can always email us at support@ck12.org. So one of the questions we got was about the resource being free. Again, our platform is free. It is free for you guys to use. We are funded by a family foundation that's amazing, that's invested in making education accessible for everyone. So that is kind of the back end on how we manage to keep our team up and running and our platform up and running. You're always welcome to donate to that mission if you want, but we do have that backing to allow it to continue to be free so anyone can access it regardless of their resources. We also had a question about the review questions in FlexBook readings. So I'm going to go ahead and drop out of this and jump back to our platform for a second, just so you can see what that looks like. And some of our science content in particular, I think most of our math content we've pulled this from, or if you're in our older content, you'll see these review questions. A lot of these came originally from before we had our adaptive practice platform available, when we just had digital customizable FlexBooks. Most of the ones from science and math have been rolled into our digital practice. So if you're looking to answer some of these questions, anyone that we could put in one of our practice question types, we put in practice. You'll see those in the practice. So I recommend assigning that assignment. If you want your students to also do this, then you could always share the link. Like, let's say you decide you're not going to use digital practice. You don't want CK-12 to save you all that amazing time, give you that great feedback, and you just want your kids to answer these review questions. You're welcome to do that. In that case, I would recommend that you maybe just share the link to the lesson and encourage them to submit a Google Doc or a Word doc or something like that with the answers. There's no digital way to answer those review because they've been pulled into the practice so that students can answer them digitally that way. So hopefully that answers that piece. It looks like we have a couple information. Is there information on who has adopted your curriculum? So there's a couple different things to think about in terms of content and resources that schools have done. So this is a question we sometimes get. Under the Explore menu, there's a couple places to think about ways to see who else might be using CK-12. So one is our schools page. Now, this is like, every time you go through a funnel. So students or schools that use us, you can see, I think this question was in Washington State. So let's go down to Washington State. You'll see here that there are some schools that have used us, not only used us, but customized content, not only customized content, but published it on our platform, and not only published it, but chose to get a schools page and kind of put their resources in one place for schools and districts to check out. So you'll see different resources here, whether that might be, a full book. We have some great ones, let's say down in, we had Merced County I talked about. So if I wanted to check out those resources, I could go up to California. I could click on that, and then I could jump down to Merced County, and we're going to just shortcut it this way. And you can see all of these resources. So that's one way to check things out. Another option, and we're kind of about to do an update on this page. So if you are a certified educator and you have not been added to this page yet, we are working on it. But in the meantime, if you check out our certified educator page, you can see certified educators that have graduated from our program and have asked to be on there. Again, this is a choice. You're not automatically added to this page. So you're going to want to go ahead and check that out and see resources as we go through. And we are doing an update for that as well. So you can see different people, and anyone that has a little email icon, you can actually reach out to them and say, oh my gosh, you're in the district right next to me, or maybe even in my district. I want to reach out and hear about your experience using CK-12. So if you're looking for that in terms of kind of the high level, automatically accessible options, you can see schools that have made content or teachers that have gone through our program and where they are, if they're willing to kind of be a point person and share their experience. And then you can, if you want more information about, let's say, adoptions or things like that, or you need privacy contracts, then just reach out to us and we can talk to you specifically about those resources. We have a question about NGSS. So if you click on Explore, you can click on the NGSS, and you can see for our middle school and high school science content, we have aligned the DCIs. So if you don't know what NGSS is, just ignore me for a minute. But if you do know what NGSS is, you know what the DCIs are, those disciplinary core ideas, as you're working through there. And we've aligned those. So if I click on here and let's say middle school life science, I'm going to say, okay, this is that standard, that idea that we're working with. And these are all the CK-12 concepts that line up with that. Now, these were tagged and you're dropping into here. This is kind of our older concept page with different resources. So you may actually just want to say, okay, I want to actually look at plant tissue once you kind of say that that works there. And it looks like it's showing up in my biology book. That would make sense. And so I can go ahead in there and I can check that out and I can see the resources here. The other option is to do it the reverse way, to look at your book, the course that you're working with, and click on your standards alignment. And you'll see the matching standards correlation with that piece. Our middle school math content was designed specifically for more exploratory pieces as you go through, kind of more aligned with that Common Core idea. Our science content at this point in time is aligned so that you can match the standards, but it's not necessarily, if you're interested in learning more how you can get the like full idea of NGSS from CK-12, just reach out to me and I can talk to you more about those resources. And then someone was talking about something being blocked. It could be YouTube. So if there's videos in here that your school district has blocked, then talk to us. But in general, I would say, you can always customize that and just pull that video out if they're not allowing you to access that. If there's something else that is blocked, because I don't have the back context for those questions as I'm reading them, let us know, reach out to us. If you need to get a contract in place, we're really concerned about student privacy, and we are happy to work with you to make sure that you have an agreement that understands that piece. So I think Bailey is typing an answer to that. And it's a question on integration with Clever. So as Dan mentioned, if you click on here, actually we can click on our tools and apps page, and you'll see Google Classroom, Schoology, Canvas, and then we have Clever and ClassLink down here. You should be able to use those for single sign-on options. If it's not in there, it might mean that it's not been set up in your district. And that's the same for Google Classroom and Schoology and Canvas. So the add-on has to be enabled by your admins, or the apps within Schoology and Canvas have to be enabled by your admins. So just check with them and ask them to reach out, or you can reach out to us. And you can learn more by clicking on the link here. And that's going to drop you straight to that page that we were sharing earlier. So it looks like at this time we have answered all of the open questions that were in here. So we are going to sign off in a second, but please, again, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can always go down to our help desk, as you can see here. You can check out our certified educator program, our webinars, other resources, all sorts of things. Contact us, reach out, and ask us questions, and we're more than happy to help you as you go. So with that, I think we're going to wrap up tonight, morning, depending on where you're coming from. And we hope to see you in our next webinar when we start up again in the new year. Okay, have a great night.